It says this meeting is now streaming, but it is not streaming. Okay, is it in speaker view? Are you guys able to see me? Yeah, okay. I see it is live. Awesome. I painstakingly wrote a nice, I started streaming. Hello, everyone. This is Sudha Jamthe. I'm going to pass it on to Yash, our host, to get started. Welcome to Weekly Wed. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Wed. Weekly Wed happens every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. It is our go-to place to learn continuously from speakers from all over the world. Sudha has been driving Weekly Wed, and she is the force behind Weekly Wed, and I'm the host here, Yashaswini Viswanath. I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm an AI researcher. I have been in the tech industry for almost like 13 years, and now I'm an internationally certified generative AI specialist. I love everything generative AI now. And today is a very special session from Sudha. Firstly, I would like to say that this is recorded. So if you want to turn off your video and not be recorded, please turn off your videos. Also, when you ask questions, if you do not your voice to be recorded, please chat the questions such that I can feed the questions to Sudha. Sudha is an epitome of passion, people, optimism. This is her aspiration, a limitless world. She's a technology futurist with a mix of global innovation and business operation experience. She enjoys shaping early technology ecosystems by educating and mentoring business professionals to learn to innovate with exceptional technologies, with the focus on gap between the depths of technology and business strategy. Sudha Jamthe has authored a book on generative AI, and I strongly suggest everybody present here to have a look at that book. It covers the depths of generative AI, and it's my go-to reference. It's one of the earliest books on generative AI that came to the market, even before the generative AI hype cycle started and people started talking about it. We had a book from Sudha on generative AI. So what is generative AI? It is that technology, artificial intelligence technology, which has the capability to create content. When we talk about create content, it could be text, image, video, audio. These are the different modalities that we say about creation. Generative AI comes with this amazing power to understand natural language. So it has natural language understanding, it has natural language processing, it has natural language generation. Today, we are here at Weekly Vet to discuss how each one of you can career pivot to Gen AI and make a career out of generative AI. Welcome, Sudha. Welcome to this amazing session. And the first question I have for you is, yes, generative AI is a disruptor. So what kind of disruption are you trying to see in this year, in 2024 and 2025, when we talk about generative AI?
So thank you so much, Yash, especially for that glorifying intro. I appreciate it. I think the hype for generative AI had started. By the time you write a book, it takes a while. So by the time my book came out, so November of 2022 is when ChatGPT came, or 2023 is when ChatGPT, no, 23 is when 22 is when ChatGPT came. The following April is when I launched my book. So I was already writing about foundation models and thought I should write about generative AI. In here at Weekly Wed, we started talking about we didn't call it generative AI. We said foundation models, what is unique about foundation models, and they are generating content, right? That is and what is the value of it? How is it different, right? We were kind of talking about it. We have some sessions if people want to go back to our YouTube and see our Weekly Wed playlist. So to answer your question, as a technology futurist, I am always looking for what is hype, what is not. And this, especially with generative AI, the good thing is I wanted to ask our students here, so I'm going to hold off on this particular answer on what is unique about generative AI. I'll answer your question about the impact of generative AI. So AI is this big pervasive technology, and it is impacting all areas of lives, all industries. And people started waking up to it. And the unique thing with AI is that it's trained by data, so everybody can participate in that, right? But what generative AI did is technology-wise, we'll talk a little bit about it because I want to have the discussion about the difference between traditional AI and generative AI. But what generative AI did is not just because of its technology capabilities, which is very powerful, but it has brought generative AI mainstream to everyone. So it was earlier data scientists, machine learning engineer, product managers. You can be a AIX designer, and there were many job roles in the AI space. And now generative AI has made every job into an AI job. It's made it very accessible to everybody. And by saying, hey, it can write, it can talk, it can clone us, it can generate all kinds of content, good and bad. It is woken up a discussion from everyone about a curiosity of, can it really do this? Okay, it's making movies, but it's really not that great. Or is it writing, but it's not really going to replace a fantastic marketing copy person, but it can augment their skills or do spell check for them. It can do things. So it's waking up people to check out the technology. At the same time, it is also waking up a whole bunch of AI ethicists to question it. And so now it has brought it into the realm of linguists and people from humanities and everyone from every industry. That's how AI should be happening, because if it's going to touch my life, I need to have a say in it. And so that is the reason why generative AI is pervasive. And I think the impact, it has started already reaching so many job roles, so many people, so many countries. That is going to continue. So I would say my biggest prediction is more languages supported is one. And one of the big gaps, I'm hoping that people who are here learning career pivoting will be able to contribute, is we need more enterprise applications. That's lacking. It's not very obvious, but enterprise will adopt a technology, which means they will go past a pilot stage and fund a technology only when it creates value for customers. And all the promises there, we are not quite there. It is not yet impacting customers with all the promise that they're saying it's going to happen this way. And there's all this hype about that you will have artificial general intelligence, AGI. I don't believe that's happening. It's more hype. I can say that on air officially. There's a whole bunch of people who say generative AI is going to bring us to AGI and it's going to happen in 5 years. It's going to happen now. And there is technology companies saying that not happening.
Thank you, Sudha. So let us decode generative AI for our students today. Let us start from the beginning. What is generative AI? How is it different from traditional AI? But even prior to that differentiation, we need to first define what is traditional AI. I will take the liberty to do that.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, as Sudha said, runs on data. There are three types of learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. When we have labeled data and the model learns from that data, we say it is supervised learning. When we have unsupervised learning, the model learns patterns on its own on the data. And in reinforcement learning, there is a penalty that is there using which the robot, which has this reinforcement learning, uses rules and actions to navigate through the environment in which it is present. Reinforcement learning actually comes from the robot world. But now, coming to the generative AI, we have what we call as the human feedback, reinforcement learning with human feedback. And there are a couple other technologies which, like a burger, stack one on top of each other, make a generative AI model for us. So, Sudha, can you please elaborate on some important technological innovations which made generative AI possible?
So you summarized the traditional AI very beautifully. And one of the things I like to do when we talk about any technology, and especially with AI, is there is a developer point of view on how you define what the technology is doing. And then there is the other roles like product managers, business people, linguists, and everybody else saying, what does it really do? And as if you're in a party and somebody says, you work on AI, what does AI really do, right? And there's an English version of explaining the brains of the AI without too much jargons. So what you said about the traditional AI supervise and supervise reinforce is perfect. And it's great because you're this brilliant AI researcher and you have a master's in AI and you build stuff, right? For the purpose of everyone else, the way I would define traditional AI first is AI is trained by data. So previously, any technology, when it was built, an engineer had to think of the steps on how to build it, like building a web browser, building the uh, Microsoft PowerPoint or Word. All of those were products that were created by engineers, and they came up with the logic and said, this is the screen, this is the layout, and this is the experience, and this is how I will create the programming logic, and this is the front end and the back end and the data flow, and there's a lot of different roles of engineers who built it. But if it was all conceived by engineers, it was limited to the imagination of the engineers. What AI did is AI, and though you could build AI with Python and technology like that, AI is learning from data. So the way AI and what was traditional AI or generative AI in general, is trained on data, which means it could be a set like my voice, it could be our image, it could be video, it could be a spreadsheet of numbers, it could be anything that can be digitized. That's data. And the data is fed to the AI as a model, and it creates a statistical pattern and says, okay, I'm looking for patterns in this data, and let me create some kind of formula based on which I generate learning. So the AI is learning, and now it says I can make a prediction from the data. So now if we give faces and you say, now tell me if this is Yashaswini or is this Sudha, it can make a prediction and recognizes. And if it doesn't have enough people looking like me in its training data, it will not recognize me. Amazon's facial recognition, which is available for developers, they have not pulled it out, is an example where if there is a guy who has a long beard, it cannot recognize that as a person because they did not have guys with long beards. Guys with very well-kempt beards are included in the training data. So you can check that, right? So the traditional AI is looking at patterns. So you could feed weather pattern of hundreds of years and say, tell me when there's going to be a flood. What is the temperature today? And you make a prediction is coming from AI. You look at health patterns, it's making prediction from AI. All this facial recognition and all the image recognition of all kind is coming from computer vision, which is also traditional AI. Traditional AI has three main categories. One is if it is trained by images or videos, it's computer vision. If it's trained by numbers, structured data, it is machine learning. And if it is trained by, what am I missing? Words, language, then it is natural language processing. So that's the traditional AI. But traditional AI, when you ask it to make a prediction, it's limited in what it was trained. So it will go back in its memory and say, do I have it? What have I learned? And it will bring it back. The power of AI is you can say, oh, it did not recognize Sudha. Why did it not recognize Sudha? Do we need to give more images of people who look like her? Is it her skin tone? Is it her hair color? Is it her hair length? And you feed a lot of data and you retrain the AI. So AI is capable of learning again and again. And that's the power of AI, right? And in traditional AI, it looked back into its own learning. With generative AI, they took what you said as supervised, unsupervised, reinforced learning, right? So they took data out there from the world and said, what if we take the entire world of data and we train a model, then it should be able to recognize anything. So they did not get permission. This was not done legally. So there are lawsuits on these companies who created the foundation models. But what they did was they took the entire content of the internet, all the images of the internet, and they created a diffusion model, said, hey, now it can recognize any image. It knows what an image looks like, any image, ask it, and it will draw one. That's what the generative AI image generation models are doing. Same thing with DALI was doing, the same thing with Imagen and all of them, right? And the same thing with Chat GPT is chatting with you because they took all English language, everything that's, Reddit streams, documents, books, everything they could get their hands on. Again, no legal boundary. And they created a foundation model. And they said, okay, now we have a generative AI. It can generate words. And all it is doing is predicting the next word from its memory, but it's predicting the next word. It's not just bringing something that it's already learned. And so generative AI is taking the learning that it has got and extrapolating it to generate the next word, to generate the next image. So it's not perfect. It's doing autocorrect, it is doing things, but it is not 100% correct because based on what it was trained. So if it is trained in English primarily, now I ask it to speak Navajo, it might not have enough of Navajo words in its training, then it is going to perform very badly. So if you chat with ChatGPT, it chats in 5 or 7 languages very well, and then it knows about 99 languages. So it will chat, but it is kind of it's not like a native speaker, it is buggy. And sometimes it's hilarious. And then when you ask some other languages, it doesn't even know that exists. It says, I don't know that. So that is the scope of what generative AI is today. And given that we wanted to talk about career pivot, I want people to think and understand. I'm very big on people understanding the foundation of AI, Gen AI, the technology industry, how it goes through buzz cycles, and figure out, is this something you want to do? Why do you want to do this? When you want to pivot a career, it's not about just getting a job. You want to build a career in this. And so why are you doing this? Where do you want to focus on? I have like one of my Elisava students, Rene here, he's brilliant. And the kind of ideas he's come up with and what he built, I saw him go through the evolution of ideas. And so all of us have that potential if we care enough to solve a problem, or we care enough about, hey, why is it not speaking my language? Why is it not recognizing my face? So one of the things I ended up doing, I was teaching autonomous vehicles, and I saw facial recognition is not perfect, doesn't recognize all faces equally. So I said, why don't I look at autonomous vehicles recognizing faces, because they started putting cameras in the car. And I did a research paper on that. So the possibilities of where we can go with that is endless, because now it's the whole world, content of the whole world, potential to create anything. That's the promise of generative AI. So I want to pause here and see if you have a question or comment.
Sudha, now going back to the early man days, what do you think are the prerequisites somebody needs to know in order to understand this new age technology, which we call generative technology? Should they know linear algebra? Should they know statistics? Should they know probability? Or if they can understand what is NLP, NLU, NLG, and try to work with generative AI by doing a lot of examples, what is the uh, what is that prerequisite that people have to come with in order to absorb generative AI?
Nothing. Anybody can learn generative AI. Anybody can build generative AI. Anybody can go build a business in generative AI. Anybody can work in a job in generative AI. The one thing I heard while you were saying all this is I'm sure many people who are hearing this who are not building generative AI or coders might be intimidated by the terminologies. Even I was saying in the beginning, artificial intelligence, and it's AGI, and you wrote that in the chat, I noticed. And when you hear jargon like that, it's very easy to assume, oh my God, everybody knows it. I don't know it. The good thing is tech goes through a whole bunch of hype cycles, and it's intentional because technology industry cannibalizes itself by innovating constantly. So if you think about any industry in automotive or finance or any industry, healthcare, all of them, right? They would they would they were doing something 100 years back. They got better. They got better. If you look at what they were doing 20 years back, they incrementally improve their business. Any business, any product, they incrementally say, hey, this is not working this way. Let's fix it. Let's do an improved product. So they're kind of improving, right? They are very afraid to cannibalize their existing business. And that's the opposite in technology industry. In technology industry, we do something and we say, oh, there must be a new way of doing it. So you could be an entrepreneur who doesn't know anything about generative AI, and you could come and build something that could just throw OpenAI and everybody else out of the window tomorrow. And that's totally possible. And I will try and give you my personal take on that secret sauce before we close in another half an hour. Okay. But I believe anybody can do that. But technology industry kind of does that. So even within the industry, there are, we have permission to kind of go do new things. So when I was working in eBay, and I was in analytics, and desktop business was the big thing. And we saw that iPhone had launched, and more people were picking up, and Android already existed. And so there was this whole traffic. We looked at traffic patterns. More and more people were coming from the phone. So we had some team who said, oh, let's go build a app. And they created a eBay app for iPhone. And then similarly, another team built an eBay app for Android. And there was no connection. They were just kind of their own features, and it looked very different, right? But the bulk of the money was coming from desktop because our users were used to just coming to ebay.com and coming from the desktop. And so the groups that basically said, no, mobile is going to pick up. We need to create better mobile experience. And then the iPad came, mobile web came. There were 4 different teams. And they said, hey, can we collaborate and try to understand the customer? And so I ended up creating a mobile analytics org to create cohesiveness across the different mobile products, and to help the product managers. The innovation come from the product managers. My team provided the data, right? But I was given permission to do that because I worked in technology industry. And so technology industry every 10 years will come in with something new. But if you see, I have shared this before here called Gartner Hype Curve. And Gartner publishes this every year on, it's a hype curve. So there's like a bunch of technologies that are hyped up and climbing up, and there is something at the top of the hype curve each year, and then it falls off and it comes down, and the buzz for the technology goes off. Some of them don't fall off, some of them continue on. So we had Google Glasses many years back, which was a big deal, and then it went away. And then VR, AR has taken many lives, and now there's another wave for VR, AR happening again, right? But some of them might just take a longer life cycle. So I was teaching in autonomous vehicles, and that was a big thing. And then it felt like it was a hype curve. Then they realized, no, we need a lot more investment. We need the market to mature more for customers to adopt this. We are going to continue this, but at a slower pace. So technology industry does that. So when you're thinking of getting into generative AI, doing something which is generative AI, it's back to your point on whether somebody can do this, who can do this, what the skill required to do that kind of jobs. I would start with understanding, are you going to be working in the technology industry? Are you going to be building those models? Like AI is trained by data, and somebody builds those models. The data scientists build the model. it's available as API. So when you go to OpenAI, it's available, it's giving you APIs, GPT and Gemini, they're giving you APIs that you can use as an engineer and just call them. You're not building the model. So there are various different roles. And so who is providing the data? Who is building the model? Who is accessing these APIs to build something with like a generative AI product with this? Who is doing the product management for it? Who is doing the UX design for it? Who is actually thinking about the customer value? Why are we doing? What is the use case? What is the problem statement that this AI should solve for? They're all different job roles. And I've not even covered all of them, right, in the AI building cycle. So if you want to get into generative AI, if you want to be the data scientist, understanding probability and knowing a very strong statistical modeling and knowing the technologies to build that, maybe Python or MATLAB or something that will manage, which will harness data well, would be a requirement, right? And if you are going to be a machine learning engineer or any kind of generative AI engineer, then you bring any of the languages you know, and there are new languages coming in, and you take that, but you should be able to program and access the different APIs and understand what can you build with this, what kind of products is possible with this. You're not building the entire product experience. You're just thinking, is it possible to generate images? Like you had this idea, Yash, for somebody who's visually impaired. If they draw something, then can that be translated into a text? Or if somebody voices something, can that generate an image and create an art from there? You had all these ideas, and you're the engineer, and you say, okay, how do I build this product? What API is available to do the generation piece? So that is the engineering realm, right? So you're either a data scientist, you're building the models, a bulk of the jobs are machine learning engineers or generative AI engineers who are doing this. That is on the technology side. And if you go work in a technology company, you might do one of these roles, or you might do product management, or you could be on the business side, right? Then there is the enterprise, which is various industries like fintech and healthcare and every industry, and retail, e-commerce, a lot of them, right? They are creating applications of the latest technology, be it AI, be it whatever, be it generative AI now. You're building applications. So ChatGPT took off because ChatGPT is an application on top of GPT. That is why generative AI took off, because for the first time, technology industry did not say, we build this technology, it's amazing. They actually built an application that common person could actually touch and feel and play with it. And so then people started chatting with it and say, it's talking English, it's speaking sentences, and it seems coherent, and it is saying this and that, right? And then they got into the whole, how do we do better prompts? And so thinking of the application of what you will build for e-commerce, for healthcare, for environmental departments, for governments, for traffic departments, wherever you are, you bring your business acumen and you can build products. You can become a product manager there, or you could do something else, right? You could create new products. Again, the idea is you're not cannibalizing your existing business. You're cannibalizing existing technology to create new things. If you're in technology industry, you are improving your existing business and creating value for customers if you're in the enterprise industry. And so anybody can get into this generative AI, and anybody can find their piece where they can create a career and grow from there. Okay, I want to pause. I hope I answered your question. If I kind of skirted around it, bring me back.
Yes, Sudha. Sudha, I want to ask one very pressing question about what are the ally technologies. So we talked about what are the prerequisites, and you said there are no prerequisites and they can jump into it, which was very encouraging. Now, what are the ally technologies like cloud, databases, uh, and all these things that may want generative AI to become a successful application?
It's a very, very good question. We have Ine in here, and Ine teaches group of girls in her country in South Sudan to get into the STEM field. And she has programs where she's teaching them to build IoT, Internet of Things. And now she is partnering with us and running a program to teach a bunch of girls about AI, generative AI, LLMs, so that they can build machine translation. And they are starting afresh, right? It's from ground up. So that's proof enough that you can teach anyone anything in a very concise way to go towards any goals. But first of all, if you're somebody who's new to this whole universe, think of an alien who descends to Earth and is saying, okay, I'm going to do this new thing that all the humans are running around called generative AI, right? Okay, hi, Vanama. Thank you for the comment. Welcome. So first, of course, it's computers. You need basic computer literacy skills. And you need, if I break it down again to, are you going to be building generative AI? Are you going to be building if you're going to be a data scientist, you need obviously access to the cloud. You need some kind of place where you're going to run your product, right? You're going to run your Python notebooks. You're going to so maybe you need a Google Colab or equivalent of it from Microsoft or Amazon, something in the cloud. You're going to access API, so you need good bandwidth, and then accessing cloud, understanding APIs, being able to run some kind of Python. All this is going to be for the person who is the data scientist and the machine learning engineer. If you're going to be a product manager, or you're going to be a business person in the enterprise space saying, I want generative AI to work for me. I want it to generate this design of the interior of my car. And I want to see whether that's, I want to play with different ideas and see what is good. Then they could just use a generative AI tool that's out there. I would not recommend that personally. I mean, you can use any tools. I believe that you can use anything that's out there done by somebody else to get your hands wet, so you're kind of in the field, understand what it is. But I'm very big on making everybody build stuff what they want wherever they are. So that's why I teach everything with no code, because everybody should go into the crux of how things work. That way, you take what works for you, you break things that you don't want, and you can reassemble and make things the way you want. That's how I think everybody can innovate, everybody can come into the field. So if you are in this, let's stick with this car industry, somebody is doing the interior of the automotive, and they are going to generate design. What do they need for that? Do they need cloud computing? They do need access to the cloud, but they are not actually doing cloud computing per se. Right, the machine learning engineer or the researcher or the data scientist is doing more of that. But I think understanding this concept of what is on the edge, what is on the cloud, data, and I think data becomes a very important skill. Understanding data, managing data, data engineering. There are job roles called data engineering, which is about looking at the data, cleaning the data, organizing the data, getting it ready to feed to an AI. There are full-time jobs available on that everywhere in the world. But a business person or product person or a person or a data scientist who's starting something from scratch, the common thing they all need is data. And they need to know, is the data clean? Does it have veracity? Can I trust it? How is it organized? What are the tools? Maybe there is, Teradata or some system where the data is organized for your company. You need to learn how to access that, how to understand whether the data is good. Is it deduped? And how do you make sense of that? So data handling, understanding data is a very, very powerful skill that everybody needs. Understanding cloud computing at a very hands-on level, you need if you're going to build stuff as a machine learning engineer or data scientist. But accessing the cloud using API is something that everybody needs. Just accessing it, right, is something that everybody would need, whether you're building it for the car or healthcare or anything like that. And general understanding of whether you're dealing with the training AI or inference AI. We've done that in class, and Renee can vouch to that. If you're dealing with an AI, so if I'm going and talking to Google search, or I'm playing with generative AI integrated into Word or Excel or ChatGPT or Google Docs or autocorrect, all of them are like and generative AI is being embedded into everything, right? To use that, you don't need anything, right? You're just a user. But by the time you use it, somebody has built it, somebody has tested it, somebody has productized it, somebody is just giving it to you, you're the customer. We don't think like that. We're just thinking, cool technology, we're playing with it. When you're playing with it, you are playing with the image of the production inference copy of the AI. When you're going to build this for your company, whether you're going to build the technology ground up, or like Vanama loves RAG, LangChain, and you're going to take the existing foundation model, and then you're going to go add more data to it, and then you're going to enhance it to do something else. I remember Vanama had come here when RAG was just the new thing. It was not even called RAG yet, right? It was LangChain. And he had actually taken the Constitution of India, the entire document, and then he took some foundation model and he said, I'm going to make this foundation model go look at this, add this extra data of this whole Constitution document. And now you can query it to understand anything related to law in India. And he's based out of India, and he thought, hey, if everybody could get access to the law, how wonderful it would be. And he came up with this using LangChain. So there are possibilities of what you can do, but he found data, he found reliable data, he found access to the data, he found it was clean, he found a way of how you can access the data, right? Using an API or LangChain in that case. And then he built the front end of what he showed us. And it's there in Weekly Wed. We had done that some time back, not years back, like maybe a years plus time back. So handling data, accessing the cloud at different levels based on whether you're going to go hands-on tech or you're going to go on building the product or business on the other end. And then if you're going into language, making the language work for your language, I was saying one of the things you could do is there are like 7,000 plus languages in the world. Generative AI does not support more than 100 plus languages. So if your language should be included, then it's a totally different skill. If you want, we can talk about that next.
So now moving on to the enterprise AI.
Okay.
That is where the money lies.
I
And
hope so.
unless it runs, will generative AI take off from the hype cycle and stay here for a long time? What is your take on it?
I don't know about the stay here for the long time, but from what I've seen over the years, technology industry comes up with the next shiny object. And I'm one of those people who gets very excited about this. And I go and say, is this interesting? I love it. Let's break it. Can I go teach this to my students? What can it do? Right? Or is this a hype? I don't like it. In fact, one of the things I typically do not do is I will not go and say, I don't like this technology. I don't think it's going to take off. It's just hype and it's going to go away. You'd never see me say that over the years. But if I believe it is good, like I've said, I've written this book 2030, The Driverless World, saying by 2030, we are going to have autonomous vehicles in some form. It's not like everything is going to become an autonomous vehicle, but we are going to go towards connected cars, electric cars with connectivity to create some value with car cognition, and it's going to happen in some form, right? And I said that, in 2016, I believe I wrote that book. And so I have said about various technologies, and in fact, the reason why I wrote one of the very first generative AI books in the world is because I was teaching AI at Stanford. My students are super smart and want more. And so I knew ChatGPT had launched, and they were going to come and ask about generative AI anyways while we were talking about foundation model. So I started writing that as a textbook for the next class. So my books so far have been textbook for my students. And so I believe generative AI, the way it is today, is still it's a disproportionate amount of excitement and innovation that is happening. Innovation is happening. It's not like the foundation models were there and a few models started. When I was writing, GPT-4 didn't exist. Multimodal models where everything is the same model can do voice and text and image and everything. You don't need to think about modality. I had to explain what is modality as a sub chapter in my book, but it didn't. Now you can do everything in one. And lot of changes has happened, and lot more innovations and research is happening in the Gen AI space, but driven by data scientists, driven by the people who understand the the math models, people who can code, who love Python. It's in that realm, right? And then there are people who write amazing copy of what it can do. And now it can, the example I was giving you, the design inside the car. But if anybody, many of my students, especially the AV people, if they come in and say, okay, I want to do the design in the car, show me the tech, right? It's kind of like not one piece, right? It's not fully productized. So there's a big demand for product managers. So typically, technology picks up when its innovation has happened by the technology industry, but we need enterprise. And I'll take a step back. I like to explain things on the underlying how they work so that you can get more from it than just my talk, right? So I told you AI is not just built by programmers, it is built by giving training data and building models, but which programmers do. But the brain of it is the data, and then it keeps relearning. So the way AI is built is a two-step process. So somebody is sitting in some technology company or a garage aspiring to build a startup and saying, I'll take this data and I will go build an AI. And they take the data, build the model, they get the AI. That is called training AI. And they say, no, it doesn't do, it's not good enough. I need to give more data. I'll retrain it. So they keep doing this, retrain it till they get to a point, they've exhausted all the data they've got, and they realize, okay, I think it's ready for the world. Now I'll make a mobile app. I will show it to my friend. I'll put it on the website. I will now get it out to some kind of early customers. And so that is how it comes from inference. All the AI we see is inference, and it is interacting with real people. And then when it goes at some point, and as we are interacting, we're still giving data. Every time you're chatting with AI, you are giving it data, and it can be used to retrain the AI. But the difference when it goes to enterprises, say, let's take a specific enterprise. Give me one industry. Give me an example of an industry instead of saying general enterprise. Should we say manufacturing? Do you want to say automotive?
Retail? E-commerce?
Retail. Okay. I'm not even going to go online e-commerce. I'm going to say retail store. We all go anywhere in the world, we go to different stores and we buy stuff. So every store out there has an inventory of what products they have. And then they have a set of customers who come in, and you go and say, I want to buy this, and you pay for it. So their transaction happens, and they have record of this customer bought this item, so that inventory has been depleted. So this is the data way of thinking about retail business. And so if there is a demand for something more and more, they will say, hey, more and more customers are buying this. We need to stock up more on this particular inventory. This blue dress, everybody's buying red dress for Christmas. So we need to get more of that, and we'll stock up, right? So managing the inventory, getting the right customers, making the transaction, and knowing the customer behavior are all the data that retail has. Okay. So now, if you're going to build AI, supply chain management, thank you, Banama. So even getting the product, right? If they're getting inventory, the inventory might not just be sitting. The red dress might not be just, right there where they can get it. They have to go back into the supply chain, ask their vendors. It'll go to a warehouse. It'll go to somebody else who's actually making it somewhere else, and then it comes. So there's a supply chain management to even keep that inventory, right? So all this is all the data element of thinking about a retail business. But finally, the business wants to delight customers by giving them exactly what they want at the time when they come to buy it. Bring them to the store when they have an inventory to tempt them to buy it. So that's the need. And when the customer is ready to buy, it's demand, and then the purchase happens. That's kind of the retail cycle. So the thing that happens with AI, if you're bringing AI into the supply chain management, if you're bringing AI to do recommender systems, if you're bringing AI to manage the shop floor, or now you say, hey, I want to do generative AI to design the floor such that it's optimal for the customer. I want marketing copy done such that it makes our life easy to cater to specific customers very fast. So if you're thinking of bringing AI, the difference between past technology and other is data. The data is done in some basement or in technology industry where they're saying, more training data, more training data. But when they're thinking of more training data, they do not have the business acumen of this retail person who's thinking about the inventory, who's thinking about the profile of customers. This time of the year, people will buy this profile of customers in this neighborhood will come and buy this. That kind of thing is in the merchant knows that. The tech person who's building that, for them, it's all data, right? What I told you as the transaction data, the inventory data, right? The product SKU information, all of it is just data for the engineer building this. But the mapping to the customer and when the demand becomes more or less and what is the right price to do, when you can optimize it so that it can sell, is business acumen. That's knowledge sitting with somebody who works in retail. And so what AI did is AI said, give me data, train it. And they trained it. And then when somebody says, I have an AI that can do supply chain management. Thank you, Vanama, for that suggestion. And you can go figure out when you want to get more of the red dress, then manage your supply chain for that. Or you're going to manage the transaction for the customer profile to build recommender systems. When somebody says, I have the technology for this, they go to the enterprise, in this case, the retailer, they do something called modeling. They're basically retraining the AI with the next layer of data. So they say, I have data from my customer. So if I'm sitting in US, I'm going to give you a US store example. If this is Walmart says, I have information of customers, inventory, transactions, what time, what happens, everything from my history for, say, 30 years. I have this information. I want to train the AI. They don't need to start from scratch. So somebody who is running innovation and technology innovation in Walmart is caring only about the actual application of the AI to create business impact for the company and the business. What they would do is they'll say, we have data. Now I don't want to build AI from scratch. Who has something closer which can give me a recommender system or a supply chain management system? AI, get me that AI. I will retrain the AI. So that part, when enterprise retrains it, it's not called retraining. When the engineer retrains it, it's called retraining. It's just nomenclature. When the engineer does it, when the business person does or product person does in Walmart or in a retail setting, it's called modeling. So that is where they take the data and they say, okay, give me the AI. I will put my data and I will model it. So the equivalent of that is happening in the Gen AI space is what Vanama told us about a year time back with RAG and LangChain, which is Gen AI is built as a foundation model by a bunch of people. Then they said, okay, we have APIs available. There's Gemini, and which was Bard and GPT and all of that, right? And then the cloud guys came in and say, hey, you're already connecting to the cloud enterprise. So why don't we give you hooks to connect from our cloud? So you come, Amazon AWS users, stay with Amazon AWS. Microsoft users, Google users, stay with our cloud. We'll give you hook to connect to the Gen AI APIs. And so the enterprise basically says, that's all great. All I want is to create value for my customers. So that is where RAG comes in, and they would say that the retail customer would say, I will take all this data, I will take a large language model like a GPT, and I will use RAG to make it understand my data, so that now when the customer comes and chats and tries to buy a product, that generative AI chatbot, like a ChatGPT for my company, in this case, retail company, would be able to chat, but look at my data and build my business acumen and answer and serve my customers. So that is what enterprise is going for. So enterprise is building a lot of chatbots. So the easiest area where they're building chatbots is customer service, because they have a lot of data. For customer service, what kind of questions were asked, it's all documented, it's available in data form. Rest of it, enterprise has not caught up. So this is where I believe unless people like you bring your business acumen from various industries, or people who are building large language models, who understand the crux of data science, crux of the latest LangChain and latest RAG versus fine tuning and how this is done. If you understand that, if you're not able to translate and have a conversation, I see Usha showed up here. Usha is brilliant in that. She worked in McKinsey and she knows to take depth of technology, understand and listen to customers and make the translation. So there's tons of jobs in there to bring your business acumen, work with technology industry to take a product and do the modeling, or you understand the crux of technology, you understand your business acumen, you make that mapping and you say, what kind of use cases make sense to build up AI product to even pilot this to test with my customers. That is where there is money left on the table. It's not happening as fast as it is as the innovation on the technology side. So back to your point, technologists who are building LLMs and RAG and more technologies are innovating faster. And it is like as if you're cooking amazing meal, but you're sitting alone at home. Your party has not happened, right? And then there are all your friends who could come, but you've not invited them yet, right? They don't know that what you're making pasta or what you're making for that day, that they want to come and do it, and right. So that matching is where the career pivoting opportunity is. So I've said in the beginning, anybody can get into Gen AI. I'm very big on understanding the crux of it, using no code if you don't code, using code if you code, but you need to understand the underpinnings of how it works. AI is trained by data. Lot of retraining happens in the kitchen, in the tech industry, and then it is brought to enterprise. Modeling happens with enterprise data, which is called RAG and fine-tuning in the Gen AI world. But what is it you're doing this for? What is the business value? You don't even need to get to ROI yet. You just think about, okay, who are my customers? Is there a pain point? Do I have data that can solve the problem? Let me see whether the technology has the capability to do that mapping of customer problem data I have to the LLM capability. I teach this as like a triangle, as a model in my Gen AI classes. And that, I think you need a business savvy person, a person who can communicate the tech in English and match it to the data, be data savvy to match that, to make that happen. And that, I think some people are doing. I hope many of my students will do it. If enough of it happen, then this will become the wave that is productive and will stay on. Otherwise, Gen AI will be is at the top of the hype curve. It will fall into this, what they call a trough of illusion, and it will fall. And then something else has to come, and then it has to pick it up. So the way technology industry does is they're completely looking for a nice word for it. We are unapologetic about failure. Like, we thought this is what will happen, this will do this. And then, if it doesn't, we're like, and we just move on to the next thing. And in this case, we cannot do this. We have to be more responsible because there are jobs and people and lives, and this is touching humanity, and it is leaving opportunity at the table where we can solve for big problems. Like, you don't need to go and say, I can create a movie. Movie people are doing it. They're creatives. They are burning with passion to do that. You don't need to create a movie just because you can make like a ABCD base level movie, but you could solve for climate change. You could solve for something more interesting that's passionate for you, right? And I think you need to find that. So whether you're a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, whether you're a product manager, whether you're this business owner, you're just a data owner, who serves a customer with the data, or you're in various industries and you have acumen in that industry, or you're in humanities and you say, what is this Gen AI? And it talks language. Tell me what it does. And you bring it in, and you can come in and you can make it happen. But just understand I think people need to understand. So since we are getting to the end of the hour and I promise career pivot, I'll say anybody can do this. Anybody can get into Gen AI. Think of it as a career. Don't think of whether I can get a job, because the jobs are all happening and all jobs are becoming AI jobs. Every job has some kind of AI element in there. So whatever you're doing, from there, you can say, what can this do for my customer? What can this do for my country, for my region, for me, right? And make it happen, right? And I think you have to be passionate about it, and you can create a whole career around it. That's what I would say. So, but skills wise, you should have some foundation knowledge of how Gen AI works, how AI works, and this, what I was telling you about, this two-step process of training AI versus inference AI and modeling for an application level. That foundation knowledge you need to know. You can get that from digging deeper into any of my courses or anybody's. There are many courses out there, but I teach it with a no-code lens, no-code tool and lens to, I don't spare anybody from knowing the crux of things because they don't code, or they are not data savvy or anything. There's no limits. My aspiration, like you said, is like a limitless world. So you have no limits. So you have to learn it at a foundation level. And then you think about, okay, what am I passionate about? What area am I passionate? Is it about voice? Is it about data? Is it about a specific industry? Is it about retail? In your case, Yash, before we wrap up, can you tell us your career pivot to responsible AI and machine and learning? Because that's a beautiful story to tell people of the reality of career pivot and the success.
Yes, Sudha. I was a Python programmer. I used to do automation where I make intelligent automations. And then I happened to do my master's in artificial intelligence. And at that point of time, like how everybody has come here for a Zoom session, I came for Sudha's session at Weekly Vet. And I have to say that truly changed my life because I got international viewpoint sitting here in Bangalore. She was the eyes with which I could see the different world that is there. Um, and in responsible AI, in particular, we have written research papers about uh, the race, where there is the color of the skin and how the data set matters. And we have written about uh, driver management systems. Responsible AI is everybody's responsibility, is what I have learned. And here, whether we can do generative AI or not do generative AI, it is our responsibility not to cause harm with our AI. And another important aspect that I want to tell is that we can talk a lot about what should not be done, but the best part is to do, to work towards what is that should not be done, like mitigation, bias mitigation algorithms. So just telling about bias is not enough. Yes, bias exists. So bias mitigation algorithms. And now we have all the data. What if the data is to be forgotten? Then we need to have machine unlearning techniques. So that is my PhD topic, and I'm doing machine unlearning in that. This is the way I've career pivoted. My master thesis was on explainable AI for recommender systems. I first learned about recommender systems. Then I learned about explainable AI because that was part of responsible AI. Then I moved into machine unlearning because I had this strong responsibility that just telling that AI is not okay doesn't take the world anywhere. We need to have, it's like a car. Everybody is telling the car is going very fast, the car will cause accidents, but somebody has to invent the brake. They have to create the brake system and make the brake system so that everybody uses the car. So that is what I'm doing. I whip up machine learning techniques, I research about them, and my view of a beautiful tech future is that AI stays. In spite of the hype cycles and all of that, Gen AI stays. But yeah, and it works responsibly.
That's very well put. So you started from being a Python programmer and say, hey, AI is interesting. Let me go get an education in that, and did a master's. And you combined your recommender system knowledge. I remember you're like a really an expert in recommender systems, right? You used to talk about recommender systems all the time. And that's how you brought e-commerce as an example too. So then you said, okay, now how do you make this explainable? And I remember when I met Yash, she had said, I want to learn responsible AI. And I was thinking of building out a AI ethics course in here in Business School of AI. Many people don't know Business School of AI is my platform community. It's just my name is my brand somehow. So, and Business School of AI, I was thinking of doing a course. I never do a course that's available outside. So if my students ask for a course, I'll be like, oh, MIT has this or Udemy has this, and I will send them. And I could not find this kind of course that I wanted, what Yash wanted. So Yash basically said, I am talking to my company and I want them to do responsible AI, but I want something that will teach me about mitigation, how to arm me with the tools to go make the change, not just learn that these technologies exist, right? That helped me shape that program, right? We ended up creating a series of courses. We did an inclusive AI course. And then what Yash said about the knowing about fairness metrics, IBM came with a fairness metrics, which is widely used, IBM Fairness 360. But Yash took that and said, okay, how do we do mitigation? How do we teach this? And so I was teaching at Barcelona Technology School. I was teaching AI to 4 different master's program, to the product management team, to the masters in product management in business technology leadership and digital transformation, big data, UX design, to multiple masters. And I invited Yash saying, can you do this one session on fairness and explainability? And then it kind of became bigger. Now you're teaching the whole big data course program. You're teaching AI ethics for them, right? You're teaching explainability and fairness. That's kind of become your thing. So when I say passion, she is an example because she said, okay, I see the excitement for technology. I'm a technologist, but I want me to take responsibility to build that break so that it doesn't harm anybody, right? How do I figure this out? And so she picked explainability and fairness as her area, and you pivoted more towards explainability. And I've seen you kind of become the expert and to machine on learning. And you're still humble enough saying, I want to learn, I want to do a PhD, and I want to do more research. But I see that whole pivot. I've seen students like that who came from engineers who became product managers who wanted to do more and become entrepreneurs who said, I focus on this industry and I want to go bring AI to my company. And there is one student, we should bring her back here. Her entire job was to look at data for compliance in a big bank. And she basically said, I want to do AI, went and did a big course from MIT, and then went to her team and they quizzed her on Python and said, you don't know Python, so we cannot give you an AI job, because that's the general myth, right? And they say, oh, you need to have some coding experience and run Python. And everybody, if they build Python, you cannot take AI anywhere to the world, right? You'll just have more code. And so she came to my class and we figured out, okay, why don't you kind of, go create a role for yourself? Don't have to go ask that center of excellence for this and go do something else. So she ended up figuring out with the data she has, how she can help customers. What can she do? Because the company wanted compliance for their own safety. And she was the manager of that customer data. And so she took that. And then I can't take credit for the transition. She did. She's brilliant. She did the transition. And then I saw her a year later and she said, I'm working on AI. What are you doing? I'm doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm just doing AI. And it was like, how? She said, I figured out my superpower is to ask questions. And so the data science team was building something which was not serving the customers. And she would say, hey, my data says this, should you not be doing this? And they'll say, yeah, shows this. And they kind of started talking and they understood how they had business acumen. So one of the observations I have is people who are on the business side. So people who are technologists, they know what they know, or they don't know what they know, because it's very logical and structured. People who are in the business side, especially if you're in sales, you know to do sales. If you're in marketing, you know to do marketing. If it's a very functional area, you know that. But when it comes to translating it for innovation and you say, this is what I can do, they lack the language for it. They lack the confidence to say, I know to do this with AI, because they feel like, I have not done a project. That's why in all of my courses, I build a capstone project. We do live labs with real company data and business use case in all my courses here at Business School of AI, because that way you kind of build the confidence, but you already know it. You don't have, so you're kind of humble about, I don't know what to say. I don't know this AI thing because I'm not building it, right? So they end up, but when you interact with somebody in your company, so to wrap up, if you're already working somewhere, turn around, look at your job and say, where can I bring AI into this? Go talk to your business partner, go talk to your product manager, whoever is your nearby stakeholders in your company, and have a conversation and say, hey, can we bring AI into this? This is the value it will create. That's the easiest way by which you can career pivot into AI. And if you're outside and you're not in AI, you need to get this foundation knowledge. You need to understand how to, handle data. And then you see, where does your passion go? Like Yash is interested in making AI useful, AI for good, and making it explainable. You might want to make AI work for your town. You might want to make AI work for children. You might want to do something with that, right? So figure out what feels passionate, play with it. And then, maybe you can come in and we can, have more conversations with other speakers, and you can understand the reality. That's what we do here at Weekly Wed. We can understand the reality of what people are doing in different industries, what's the real best practices, what kind of challenges they faced, and what kind of innovations they're doing, and we can help each other. So with that, I want to wrap up, Yash. Yeah.
Sudha, I just have one last question and we will wrap up after that. So, is there some certification? Is there some course in Business School of AI or from Stanford that is there in the next 3 months or 6 months where we can learn more about generative AI? And those who have come here, they can tell that information to their friends and bring in those friends who want to learn about generative AI.
So in my AI class, I was teaching generative AI as part of it at Stanford. I'm not doing that now. I do not have a course in Stanford that I can recommend confidently that it will be helpful. Um, on Business School of AI, we have a 15 days email, Gen AI email course where you can learn in 15 days all the different terminologies and jargons, and you can get a certificate. If you don't want to spend, it comes like an email 15 day once a week, once every day. But you don't want to do it in 15 days. You can just open next lesson and learn it. And it is asynchronous. So you kind of get the content, you learn it in 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. I think you can play with it, but you can also do a capstone project and you'll get like a mentoring session with me. And there's a community, so you can go connect with other people to collaborate or find out what they're doing. So, and then at the end of it, you get a certificate. So you learn, get the foundation, you get a certificate, you get to build something hands-on. And because this is for beginners getting into Gen AI, we have like a simple capstone, we call it mini capstone, that you can do in a couple hours. And so if you like set aside like half a day, you can get a certificate, go build a project, show off on LinkedIn, and make some friends who are also working in the Business School of AI community. So that's one I would recommend. I'm looking to build out a more extensive generative AI. I think we did one with LLM. There's a lot of content we have. We did prompt engineering. I've done webinars on LLM. So foundation material, we have stuff here. Um, I'm looking at something more hands-on, what you were talking about. How can you build applications? How do you grow an AI business, right? We've done that for machine learning with KiwiBot in the past. I'm looking to build out something like that. That would be much more hands-on capstone project with a real team of multiple job roles coming together, simulating what's happening in industry. So look out for that. We'll have that. But if you want the foundation one, the 15 days Gen AI course should do that for you.
Thank you, Sudha. And it's a wrap. I hope to have many more sessions like this with you and continue the learning about generative AI. Maybe we can do something on agents, fine tuning, RAG, and all of that. Thank you so much for having the session today.
Yes, and you can just follow generative, not generative AI, Business School of AI on LinkedIn. We'll be sharing all the weekly words. We'll be sharing the newsletter and all the other sources. People ask me, where do I go? I used to say Bitly this, Bitly that, and then I've realized it's too much. So if you follow me on Business School of AI on LinkedIn, I'll be sharing anything. And if you want to follow up and even ask questions, if you're already in the newsletter, you can reply back to me. Or you just post in Business School of AI, or if you follow you, I think you can come and do a chat. I will get you resources and I will help you. And I want your feedback, because one of the things that's always worked with every book, every course, what I've done is I tune into what my students want. So Agent AI looks like the big thing. LinkedIn has asked me to build a course on Agent AI as the next course, LinkedIn Learning. I would like to bring one, but with the same hands-on capstone community working together to build something for real is how I'm thinking. So talk to me. What do you want? At what level do you want? And I'll offer you guidance. Okay. Thank you, Yash. I had fun.
Thank you, Sudha.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We will catch up in the next Weekly Wed. Weekly Wed happens every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And subscribe to Weekly Wed to get the Zoom notification. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. I seen a lot of new people, so you should connect with each other too. It's not just me or the speaker or Yash, because it's a whole community. We help each other. So I see a lot of new people showing up here. So
So
make sure
the
you connect.
YouTube
Yeah.
streaming is still on.
Yes, let me stop there. Thank you so much.